Test, 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 test. 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 You guys hear me? Yo, we're back. All right, it may be really loud. I don't understand why that happened, because they didn't change anything from yesterday. I don't remember where the setting was. All right, just tell me if I'm too loud. Tell me if I'm too loud. Good night. Thanks for sticking with me through that. What in the world? What in the world? Oh my gosh. Technical difficulties. What is going on, everybody? Wow, crazy. We're 12 minutes in and I'm still doing the intro. Wow, what a day in the crypto markets. And honestly, Bubbles isn't even really reliable here, as you have a slew of green and red across the board. Thank you all for being here with me, sticking through those technical difficulties. I have no idea what just happened, but we got it fixed. We're ready to go. The mic's hot, ready to go. Let me know if that's a little loud or anything, because it's now up here, Vice down here. I don't understand why this one's still muted. Oh, I guess you guys can't see that. But yeah, it's OBS. Super weird. But yeah, that's my streaming software. Really crazy I was not picking up my mic, but now it is. Yeah, I didn't even do anything. I just unplugged and replugged it back in. And I did that a couple times, and I was kind of praying, and it worked out. Hey. But thank you all for joining me here on this Saturday night after this week of absolute pumpage and dominance here for the crypto market and markets abroad all across the world rallying as this trade war does seem to be coming potentially to its end. Donald Trump traveling to Europe this weekend, trying to get a trade deal going on with them. Looks really good when the markets pump, but when you're talking with other world leaders, super awesome for your economy and the viewership of your country. Whether your country sees you as a thriving economy or not, they really take a look at the stock market and they'll look how it's doing with in the past week, the last couple days, and the last couple days we've had some pumpage. It gave Donald Trump a little bit of standing ground to dive on in and make a negotiation, baby, a negotiation. The winners of the day, Brett, Wild, and Virtuals, or WorldCoin, and Virtuals, screaming to the upside. Trump coin also screaming to the upside. Everybody's trying to get to that dinner, baby. Everybody's trying to get to that dinner. Yeah, kind of crazy opinions on that, but hey, I'm gonna keep that to myself. Even though I shared it with you guys yesterday. Sui, baby, Sui's doing okay. I started building a low leverage long position in Ondo today. I'll be adding to that if we do see lower prices, but I have to get in right now. I had to get in right now, baby. I had to get in right now. At about $1 was my entry, so we're sitting just beneath that for Ondo. But the altcoins rallying outside of our box of remembrance, baby. What a day it's been. I had to trim up the beard, baby. We were shaving it up, and I was outside sprinting, got super hot, and I was like, man, this beard's got to get shaved, baby. It's not good for summer. I feel like it looks very handsome. What's up, ladies? How you doing? It's a nasty kid. But yeah, it looks super good in the charts today, man. Hey, for those of you who don't, I know, for all the men out there, for those of you guys who claim to not use the same trimmers you trim your hair with for down below, I know you guys are lying. If there's any wives that are watching right now, they do it. I'm telling you, just ratting on you guys. But yeah, this is a crazy market right now. And today with Bitcoin trading in honestly what was a very small $300 range. Even since this morning at 5 o'clock, we just got out of there on this last 15-minute candle. Potentially, but I'm not giving a lot of validity to it right now on the weekend. But from about 94,000 to 94,400, we've been bouncing around in this range. And even though we're bouncing around in this range, with Bitcoin getting the pumpage yesterday, it allows the altcoins breathing room to run. And some altcoins, more particular than others, are screaming to the upside. Virtual's just doing something different today. We have a ton of winners. We have some losers. Bitcoin SV, the loser today. But we have to consider that just yesterday, it had a pump like no other. It went from, you know, 30 bucks up to 40, 46. That's a 50% move for that coin. So of course there's going to be a little bit of a retracement, something very similar that we're seeing here in SUI. We had that massive pump. We pulled back down to $3.30 or so, and now we're back up at 353 is what it is. Yeah, I mean, this looks really good for continuation for SUI. I think Ondo looks really hot right now with this partnership with the SEC, potential partnership with the SEC. A lot of rumors going around on Twitter, baby, and there's a ton of things to talk about here in the space. We have a news-filled week coming up, and you guys are in the hottest seat right now, getting ready for the week ahead while everybody's else is out there partying, hitting the whip nay at the clubs. You're down here understanding the charts, getting that little bit of an advantage that you need to be a successful trader in this market. Thank you guys for being here. Drop your altcoins in the chat. What do you guys want to go over? It's really a lot more casual here on Saturday nights. I want to know what you guys want to go over, and I want to dive into the coins that you guys care about. I'll bounce around, and I'm going to give a little broad market overview, but really not a lot has changed since yesterday. We are exactly at the CME gap right now. The CME gap, look at Bitcoin getting a little bit of a rally here, baby. A little bit of a rally here on the 15-minute. Pushing to the upside. Look at this. Let's get on the 1 minute here and we can see this. Yeah, that's nice. You're getting that alligator mouth fan out of the 21, crossing that 200, getting that nice pump to the upside, a price that we have not seen all day today for Bitcoin. On the 5 minute looks good. 21 crossing the 200 right here looks very, very good for continuation here to the upside. Now it's the weekend. There's low liquidity. This could be any whale, you know, trying to cascade shorts to the upside, and then there's going to be a whale that steps in and says, hey, no, that's enough. Cascade shorts to the downside, hit his limit orders before reversing price. That's how the weekends work, and it sucks to say that, right? But because the big institutions aren't in play, there's a lot less, right? If you're going to go out in the battle, right? During the week, you're facing an army of Rome, right? You're with your soldiers, you're facing the army of Rome, you're facing a massive, right, old civilization Rome, a massive army, whereas like during the weekend, the whales, right, the individual people, it's like going to raid a small village that is starving and doesn't really know what's going on. So that's the difference between trading during the week versus the weekend. You have a much larger population trading, and the volume to support any kind of sustained move. On the weekend, we don't have that, and the institutions often take it right back in the form of a CME gap grab, baby. This CME gap forming right now, right, or has formed yesterday, and we'll see how it goes. Where the CME gap form, right? Woo! Right where we're at right now. So where this candle closed yesterday on Friday, right here, you want to mark this level here on your chart. Very, very important. Why? Because it's very likely only three times in Bitcoin's history that I know of that these gaps were not filled, most of the time the following week, right? So whether we start trading up here or down here, very likely that at the beginning of the week, price will pick up where it left off on Friday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time when this candle body closed right here, right? That's why it's very, you got to be very cautious trading on the weekend. I would honestly, and I, of course, I want this to pump to the moon. I do, right? I really do. But what I'd rather, right? I'd rather some kind of consolidation here, just sideways trading. Let us open up the next week beneath this CME gap to give us a little bit of fuel to the upside. Let us get that squeeze, and let's see if that's enough to prop us up here over the high volume node that is sitting at about $96,000. We have very clearly ran into some selling pressure yesterday, and you know, today actually went really well comparatively to what I thought would happen. I thought there would be some kind of substantial pullback, but Bitcoin's been trading sideways. Showing that and doing that is going to form high volume nodes in the smaller time frames, right? You're going to get these nice high volume node clusters, and we gapped through a VRVP gap right here. You could see the little gap in the VRVP, we boom right through it. And that's very, very likely to form a higher volume node on the bigger time frames, right? The longer you trade here on the daily, the longer you trade in this range here on the daily, the bigger these higher volume nodes are going to get. So if you can get these nodes extending right here, we can start ping-ponging in the form of a flag in between these two high volume nodes sitting at about $96,000, and where we currently stand at about $94,594. So I would really, really like to see that. A nice giant pennant potentially forming for Bitcoin, and no one's expecting this, but this pennant here, a breakout to the upside, takes you back to, yes, almost all-time highs, or at least to retest the prior highs here. This could be a monumental move for Bitcoin, and it would catch everybody with their pants down. I believe that the altcoins will follow suit. Bitcoin dominance struggling a little bit here, struggling to get through that 618-786 bearish Fibonacci retrace of the inverted cup and handle that we've been going over for the past few weeks here. And, you know, the potential to get up to the 786, it is there, right? It is there to get up here to the 66% mark for Bitcoin dominance. Do I think that's going to happen? Well, I do see a little bit of a shoulder head, right shoulder here forming on the 4-hour time frame. I really think that Bitcoin dominance is cooked. I gotta say that. Yes, the weekly looks fine. Like, it looks okay. You had this massive shooting star pattern. You may have some bearish divergence that is forming here on the weekly. We did look at weekly bearish divergence that got defied, and Bitcoin did start to squeeze up, but this is the golden pocket of this inverted cup and handle on the macro. This has been forming for the past few years, and any kind of pattern that forms on the macro, the bigger time frames, you gotta respect them. You have to respect the larger time frames over the smaller time frames, in my opinion, right? It's just what I've been using in my trading strategy throughout my trading career, and this inverted cup and handle looks very good for a break to the downside and gap through these giant gaps that we have here. We have one giant gap, we have two, and the third one being the biggest. This is likely where we'll get caught for Bitcoin dominance if we do have that altcoin season rally. I think that this is going to be the beginning, and if this is the beginning of alt season, and you're with us here in the BoyceCrypto family, and you have positioned yourself to benefit from an altcoin run on some coins that, you know, you may believe, and I believe had the potential to 10, 20x, that's why I'm starting to build this position here on Ondo. I really think that coin has 10x potential. I think Sui has 10x potential. I think those coins both are contenders and can potentially wiggle their way into the top 10, Sui in particularly. And Ondo, I think, can at least get into the top 15. I think it's a hot project, and working with the government now, with the SEC, that's speculation, right? We'll dive on into the charts. It's just speculation. But if you do get that macro news, Sui partnering with Pokemon, one of the hottest games in the world, hundreds of millions of followers on hundreds of millions of devices, you know, and taking control of the NFT space, I think Hyperliquid's going to make a return. Virtuals is screaming to the upside. AI maybe making a leg back up. I think Virtuals has the potential to revisit its highs. And, you know, it is scarce, right? It's not like there's unlimited Virtuals. I think there's only 10 billion Virtuals. Am I right? I'm pretty sure there's only 10 billion of them. Let me see here. Virtuals, baby. Virtuals number 91. There's 1 billion virtuals. 1 billion. So even more scarce than I thought. There's 65% of it is out right now, and they do have an unlock schedule. You can check that out on their website and on their white paper. But yeah, a lot of these coins are showing massive potential. And you know what? You know, the majority of my holdings are in Bitcoin. That's the truth, right? So if we don't get that altcoin run, you know, you know, the altcoin portfolio, I'm not going to say it's going to struggle, but it may get outperformed by Bitcoin, which I would be okay with. However, the reason I'm positioned in the altcoins right now, what do I use the altcoins for? To accumulate more Bitcoin. In the event that this rolls over, right, and we get this cup and handle breakout to the downside, which is what I am hoping for, if we do get that rollover, that breakout of the inverted cup and handle to the downside out of the bearish 618-786 golden pocket Fibonacci retracement here, that would allow me to multiply my Bitcoin holdings in the event that some of these coins were to 10x or 20x, right? I would be able to rotate those profits into Bitcoin, and then at the end of the cycle, I would have so much more Bitcoin, right? And potentially even get back into Bitcoin at better prices if I do believe the bear market is upon us. But you know, that we'll cross that bridge when we get there, but the altcoins are a tool for me to accumulate more Bitcoin over time, and that's exactly what I've been doing, and it has been paying big time, baby. It has been paying big time, and until the 618-786 Fibonacci golden pocket retracement gets invalidated, and what would an invalidation be? A Sunday night closure above 66.21 for the 786. The 786, where is it at right here? Woo! I just moved it. Yeah, 66.24. A singular weekly candle close above 66.24. I'll change my thesis. I'll be like, well, you know, I'll flip my thesis to the altcoins are likely cooked, right? Or for the time being, right, for the next few months, they'll be cooked because you're likely to come up here and test the highs. You break out of here. And one of two things is going to happen. Bitcoin's going to leave everything in the dust and go on this hyperbolic Bitcoin super cycle. Or, you know what also happens when Bitcoin pumps? Bitcoin can dump. Bitcoin could dump massively and people will get scared out of their altcoins and jump on into Bitcoin. That's what happens when Bitcoin dominance starts to pump to the upside. What we'd like to see here is just to roll over, and why I'm speculating on a massive altcoin season here. I have to speculate on a massive altcoin season because Bitcoin's bigger than it's ever been before, right? And there's going to be winners and losers of this altcoin cycle. But Bitcoin's bigger than it's ever been before. A drop back here, 2021, that kind of drop, what were we trading at for Bitcoin back here in 2021? Wasn't it $60,000 or so? $60,000 back here in 2021. Even when we were on that run, you were trading at 30, 40, right? Less than 2x where Bitcoin is sitting right now, almost 3x. Bitcoin's 3 times bigger. And we could be seeing an altcoin season that is very, similar to that, right? You get some of that money rotating in the altcoins. That's going to be about $1 trillion. It says an average double up for your average altcoin, and I think there are going to be winners and losers, so I think that double up isn't going to happen on everything. I think that the hottest projects in the game are going to be taking over here. I think the big narratives this cycle are going to be over here in this USA category, baby. I will go as far as to say this. If you click on this tab right here, USA made. Why? Because President Donald Trump has said that he aims to make crypto tax-free that is made here in the United States to spark innovation on what could be a new industrial revolution. If that happens, everything on this page will fly off the charts. I don't care what the chart looks like. I don't care. That news, a tax-free asset where you can appreciate your money tax-free outside of an IRA, that will, in my opinion, that will rotate some massive money even from the stock market into these assets. Everything will fly. I think Sui's going to be the winner of it all. I really do. I'm very heavily positioned in Sui. I think Ondo real world asset play is a massive, massive winner coming up on this cycle. Yeah, we're about where I started averaging in right here. I got in at about $1 even. So about, 20% of a penny less than that right now. But Ondo, I think, is going to be a massive winner. My price predictions, right, just off the dome, I think Ondo is going to hit $8 to $10 this cycle. I think Sui has the potential to hit $20. If we get that massive Pokemon partnership, I think we can see $20, $25 for sure for Sui. That mass move to the upside. It is like both of these assets are capped, right? They are capped. I don't think Ondo is actually. Ondo isn't capped, is it? No, it's not. It does not have its max supply. Total supply, 10 billion Ondo, and there's no plans for inflation right now. Hopefully they do cap that off at a max supply, so that would be really, really bullish for the asset. I'm just talking about those assets because it's what I love, baby, and what, where I'm positioning my money and my lady's money to, benefit us and our family, right? And to hopefully get us to a position where, you don't ever have to worry about money anymore, and you're looking at, if I'm 30, 35 and I don't have to worry about money anymore, what does that look like? A few $1 million in the bank. You could really, this is a true space that I full-heartedly believe can get you out of whatever situation you're in. It doesn't matter if you're a doctor or a lawyer or whatever you're, even those kind of jobs. This space has been proven to make more money than more millionaires quickly than any other space in the game, more than the stock market, anything. These kind of runs that you see only in cryptocurrency have the potential to change your life, and that's why I'm here. That's why I am in the altcoins right now. That's why I'm loving the altcoins right now. That's why I'm in Bitcoin. I really do believe that this is going to be a multi-million-dollar asset one day. I have a $10 million long-term price prediction for Bitcoin. That is, yes, a 100x from here. Imagine what that would look like in 10, 20 years if you had 100 times the money that you have today, right? And I'm not gonna lie to you guys. I don't have a gigantic savings account. I don't have a lot of money in my checking account. I don't. Most of my money is in Bitcoin. The majority of my funds are in Bitcoin. Why? Because if I'm holding money, I know they're printing it every single day. Let's talk about the narrative that everyone's screaming about on X right now. It is the M2 global money supply. Historically, Bitcoin has always followed the M2 global money supply. And the M2 global money supply just pumped like crazy. Oh, they have it here on TradingView? That'd be awesome. All right. This is the M2 global money supply, right? The M2 global money supply has, how do you, can I get this in a super chart? No, I can't. Are you kidding? All right, we'll use this right here. That's fine. All right. The M2 global money supply represents how much money is essentially in the world in any kind of asset, right? Or any kind of wherever money has been injected by federal governments, that represents the M2 global money supply. When money's printed, it ends up in an asset, and that asset is tallied up here in the global M2 money supply. This chart is Bitcoin. Bitcoin comparatively to the M2 global money supply. And you can see whenever you have massive pumps in the M2 global money supply, right? Bitcoin loves to follow. And you're like, why, BoyceCrypto, why is this chart projected to be out until June of 2025? We're not there yet. You're right, we're not there yet. But this is the amount of money that will be here based on current legislation. And we just got some massive money printing in the charts here starting over about last month. And I haven't really been tracking this that much. But man, Bitcoin loves to follow this chart, and this says that a $100,000 Bitcoin is likely to come, and it's likely to come very, very quickly. And and this isn't even updated. Like, Bitcoin's sitting right now at about $90,000. Sitting up here, right? Sitting up here. So Bitcoin is trying to follow this move for the M2 global money supply, and historically, it's caught up to the M2 global money supply, and it has not failed ever. So that's an interesting chart here on Coinbase, the MF global M2 money supply. But that chart is trending on Twitter, baby. It is absolutely crazy to see that how much money the governments are printing. So why am I going to hold that in my bank account? Why am I going to hold those dollars in a bank account, right? What's the point of playing Monopoly if people are just going to hand you endless amounts of paper money? That's why I believe in this asset so much, because it angers me that over the course of years, you know what's crazy? Imagine, so minimum wage back in the day, right? Like back in the day, my grandfather used to talk about filling the gas tank for a nickel a gallon or whatever, a nickel a gallon, something crazy like that. And now you're looking at gas. At one point, the prices were 100 times that. I remember when Barack Obama was in office, we touched almost $5 a gallon at one point. Everybody was riding their bikes. But we're almost 100 times those prices. Imagine you saved every dollar you earned when you were younger, right? Say like when you were a child, right? For the adults that watch the show, because I know a lot of you guys are 40, 50 years old, 60 years old. Imagine if you saved the money you earned as a 20-year-old and you did nothing with it until now. What would be the difference? If you just kept all that money and you didn't spend it, would you be happy or would you be frustrated? You would definitely be frustrated. Why? Because that amount of money isn't worth what it used to, and that's what inflation does. And clearly, the Fed doesn't have it under control, and it's not going to be put under control. Why? Because centralized currencies don't work. They've never worked. The average life of a centralized currency is about 50 years. Guess how long the United States dollar's been around? A lot longer than that. So now, the United States dollar's tickling on 100 years, isn't it? How old is US dollar? No, this is what I'm looking from when to. Yeah, so whenever a currency starts getting controlled by a government that's backed by nothing, the average life of it is about 50 years. And we're sitting right there. 1971, 81, 91, 2001, 2011, 2021. We are over what the expected rate is for hyperinflation to impact an economy that has a currency that is based on absolutely nothing. So that's really interesting. And you're like, what BoyceCrypto, what countries have done that before? You could look at Zimbabwe, Argentina, people, governments that have recklessly printed money in the past. You have $1 trillion Argentina peso, I believe. And you have Zimbabwe dollars. Yeah, $1 million Zimbabwe dollars. If I had $1 million right now, I'd be happy. But if there were quintillions and quintillions of dollars in the system, it wouldn't matter, right? And those people who made $1 million, a year, 20 years ago, would be looking at their $1 million and be like, wow, I could buy a carton of milk with this. That's the problem with the debasement of the dollar, and that is based on nothing. It frustrates me, man. I know I went on a little rant there, but woo! Good night. All right, what's going on, everybody? What's going on? Hey, thanks for jumping on in and stick with me through the technical difficulties. Maybe let's hop into the hottest altcoins in the game. Today is tonight's a night about you guys. I want to see the coins that you guys want to go over, and we're gonna hop right on in with the first one. Wanda wants to look at SEI. Drop your altcoins in the chart. Tonight's all about you guys. Saturday night, baby. Let's go over the assets that you want to see and what I see for them going on into this coming week. And maybe I'll even learn something. I haven't looked at all the coins, right? I haven't looked at all the coins, but this market is definitely looking frothy and a potential turnaround. A potential turnaround for the altcoin looms on us right now. All right, let's dive on in. Starting it off with Wanda. Thank you, Wanda, for being here and joining on in the chat. Thank you for each and every single one of you for diving on into the chat. April, Wanda, BC, MH, what's going on? Glad that you guys are here. All right, here we go. Diving on in. SEI and perpetual futures. SEI, one of the hottest gaming coins of, SEI was supposed to compete with SUI way back in November of 2024. How do I know that? This is when I was getting out of the Navy. And I was like, oh my gosh, SEI looks really, really good for a run. And it went on a massive run on the daily here. When we cracked that 200 MA on the daily, you know what happens? You get supported by the 21 right there. Massive pump to the upside. You crack below, and the 21's been supporting us the entire way down. Now, everyone looking for a reversal here for SEI. I don't even remember when I drew this. Maybe we looked at it the other day. I can't remember. SEI looking very, very good here out of what? Well, first of all, you have this falling channel. Falling channels do break up almost to the base, the neckline, right? Of where, not the neckline, but the base of where they started. So how do you take the target from here? You take it just like this, falling channel, and you'll put it over here at the point of breakout. And some more conservative traders, like I like to be, here at the retest point, right? And you can get that rally to the upside. Looking for a break to 25 cents, 26 cents here for SEI. The stochastics are a little overbought right here, but right now, as you can see right here, if you look, I can't move my mouse over here and show you guys, but look right here, these numbers, when these numbers match at the top, the 100 on the stochastics RSI, that means the stochastics are what's referred to as pinned. When the stochastics get pinned, that is one of the most bullish things you could see momentum wise, because this indicator cannot go any higher. The marked line and the signal line will get pinned. The RSI is still not approached that overbought level, and you have these massive gaps in the VRVP to the upside, Wanda. It looks very, very good for a squeeze to the upside. If you get this move here, you will change market structure on the macro. Look right here on the daily. You'll crack this high. That will be your first, and you almost did it. That'll be your first higher high. What I'd be looking here for SEI, I'd be looking for a crack of this higher high and then a retracement, right? You crack that higher high and you're likely going to retrace, and that would form a very beautiful here cup and handle. In my opinion, this is very, very likely. A cup and handle, often a bull flag, the same exact thing. A bull flag will form out of the cup and handle. Where are you likely to come? Well, you pull your Fibonacci from your swing low to your swing high, and this will change, right? Depending on how high you pump all the way up here to the 200 SMA. This would be the level that I'd be looking to get in at the 618, but say we pump up to about that $25, $26 level, and then you could re-enter at this 18-cent level. That would look very, very good from a leverage position perspective. However, right now, if you believe that the altcoins are turning around and the SEI is the project to be in, I'm at the point, everybody, and have you ever heard me say this where I'm like, if you're a spot buyer, I really truly believe if we have another dip, that's going to be the last opportunity. If we crack this high, there's nothing saying SEI can't go on a massive monstrosity move. Look at this, right? When we started altcoin season, like back here in 2024, when the alts really started to pop, you didn't have a lot of pullbacks on the way up, and SEI did something, historic. That's a 5x. So if you get this turnaround, right, and we're in this zone down here after massive capitulation down to the upside, you got this. How many more opportunities do you want to accumulate SEI below, 20 cents? Okay, we're at 20 cents and a half right now. But to me, SEI at 20 cents is a steal. It's owned by World Liberty Financial. It's making monumental moves in the gaming space. If Sui gets this partnership, SEI will likely pop as well. It has a really good infrastructure. I wouldn't be waiting too long from a spot perspective. Like, if you get any little dips, I'd start scooping some up. And I don't want to say you missed a train, but honestly, if you get in here if you get in at 20 cents versus 17 cents and you pump all the way back up here to the highs, both those people who got in at 20 and 17 are going to be looking at like, wow, I'm glad we got in then, because we just 5, 6, 7, 8x our money. It won't matter if you got in at 17 or 20 cents from a spot buying perspective. So that's what I'd be looking at here for SEI. I'd be looking, you got a little bit of bearish divergence here forming on the 4-hour time frame. I do acknowledge that, but stochastics are reset. So to me, Wanda, right, if you're looking for a leverage position, you got to dive on into these smaller time frames and, hope you can maintain above some of these 200 MAs, on the smaller time frames, and you can flag it out. But right now, it doesn't look really, really hot from a leverage perspective, right? You may get that shoulder, head, right shoulder, get a little bump down here, but you're talking about a single cent in an asset that I think could potentially reach that dollar mark. And whether you get in at 19 cents or 20 cents in the asset, if it runs to $1, will it really matter? And I'm talking about spot. I'm talking about people who don't look at their portfolio I don't look at my spot portfolio every single day, right? I mean, some people may, but like you don't really need to. If you believe in these assets and we're about to go on an altcoin run, you could even do it like this. $10 here, $10 here, $10 here, $10 here, and try and catch as much as you can to the downside to get the juiciest prices. But to catch the bottom, right? Like who would have seen this right here at 13 cents? You're already at 100% off the lows. Wanda, this asset really can do some damage. It could do some damage, and I think there's a reversal here for SEI looming. That there's giant gaps here in the VRVP to support it. So on the larger time frames, it says go, 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 go. And I don't know if we're gonna see these lower prices again. I can't say that for certainty. I could speak from a leverage perspective. Would I be opening up along here? No, the risk reward isn't there for me, right? Even if I put my stop down here, because the odds of a retracement into 618 are there, but you're talking about like I couldn't recommend not buying in the spot right now, because I really do see these as some of these assets. Again, not financial advice. I see some of these assets being potentially at their bottoms and having bottomed. I don't know if we'll see those low prices again. I can't guarantee that, right? I can't guarantee anything in trading, but I cannot guarantee that. So that's what I'm looking at here for SEI. A nice reversal off of this weekly massive bullish engulfing candle that we have here. Looks very good. That 21 is falling very, very violently. That's okay. And, from a macro perspective, you can also look at it like this, that this is just one giant consolidation piece. If this is a giant falling wedge to the downside, and you do end up getting that crack above, which is what would happen very, very likely in alt season, you get that crack above that resistance. Ooh, yeah. You're going back up to that $1.12 region. That's a 6x from where you're standing right now, Wanda, without any leverage. And that's an immaculate move, whether you get in a 17, 18, 19, 20, 25 cents. These are the prices, and we've had, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 weeks. We've had 2 months to accumulate in these zones, right? 2 months to accumulate in these zones. 2 months to accumulate into this total 3 box of remembrance, a box that we said, hey, we're going to look back and understand that the BoyceCrypto and the family here on this channel was averaging in these areas right here, down here. And we were talking about, hey, if we go lower, we could go to the 786, and we did. But it doesn't matter if you got in here. Woo. You're feeling good regardless of whether you got in here, or here. It doesn't matter. You're out of that box of remembrance, and everybody who hasn't panicked is feeling good. Total 3 looking to push up on that 200 SMA. We've reclaimed, yes, we have reclaimed the point of control. The highest volume node right here for Total 3. That is very, very powerful. That's what I'm looking at there for SEI, Wanda. I think the project has a lot of potential. There's going to be winners and there's going to be losers in this space. I will say I do own a little bit of SEI. It is not a large holding of mine whatsoever. I'm talking less than 1%. So it's not something that I really have heavily on my radar. The biggest coins that I'm holding right now, besides Bitcoin, in my altcoin portfolio is Sui, Ondo, Render. What else do we got? Sui, Ondo, Render. I have a singular Ethereum. Maybe I'll do a portfolio share with you guys one day. That would be a lot of fun. I'll do that with you guys. I'll give my mindset on what I'm doing. But yeah, Sui, Ondo, Render. Those are my top 3 holdings, baby. Those are my top 3 holdings besides Bitcoin. Bitcoin does hold about 75 to 80% of my portfolio 9 times out of 10. Until we go into that massive altcoin rally, and I can be sure that we're going higher on the altcoins, I won't be allocating any more Bitcoin into the altcoins. But that's how I'm looking to accumulate more and more Bitcoin over time, utilizing the altcoins besides, regular income and things like that. So that's what I'm looking at. BC wants to look at Fartcoin. Absolutely, brother. Let's dive on into Fartcoin. And, Fartcoin, baby. Tell me why. Can anybody explain why Fartcoin is here? I was looking in the AI space. Can anyone explain to me why Fartcoin's listed under the AI section here on CoinMarketCap? Because if this isn't, I thought this was a meme coin. Is this an AI play? Does it do things with that? I don't even know. What in the world is, what? I don't even know what this is. Is Fartcoin an AI play? Do people know something that I don't? I know on X. Tokenizing farts to help with bots. Fartcoin dev or we adopted Fartcoin. No TG, no cabal, fart freely. How is that an AI anything? That makes no sense to me. If somebody understands that, help me out. Listed under the AI section. Somebody's trolling. $1 billion max Fartcoin. All the supplies out. That's interesting. All right, let's dive on into the chart. Fartcoin. And I've said this is the bane of my existence, man. I know it. I know it in my soul. We're going to look back at this. I don't own any Fartcoin. I'm going to throw that out there. I don't own any Fartcoin. I'm not going to be able to look, my lady in the eye and be like, "Hey baby, we made it this year. You want to know why? We put it all in on Fartcoin, the new Bitcoin. Everything in on Fartcoin, baby." And then just like toot right there in front of her. Yeah. Probably not going to happen. She probably wouldn't be very happy with me, right? Say this goes south. You're like, "Honey, why? Why did we lose all our money? What happened?" And if I went up to her and I said, "Baby, we lost it all in Fartcoin," imagine the slap you would get. A Fartcoin? What? What is Fartcoin? And then trying to explain that, and you'll go over here to CoinMarketCap and click on, I'm done hating on it, man. I'm done. What I'm saying is this thing's probably going to outperform me in every way, shape, and form. This thing's probably going to 100x, and it's going to do it without me, and it's just going to do it to troll me. I could feel it. All right. What I like here for Fartcoin, nice rounded bottom. You did get that breakout of the inverted shoulder, head, right shoulder that was looming here on the daily. You have that shoulder, head, right shoulder. Everybody see that? That shoulder, head, right shoulder to the upside. And the target, the measured target, takes you about to where you are right now. Yeah, it takes you to about where you are right now at about $1.03, trading at $1.04 right now. Even came a little further than the target right there. So something that I do like about Fartcoin is it did reclaim this key area of support resistance flippage, baby. This nice support resistance flippage. Yeah, support, flipped under resistance. Resistance right here got above. We flipped it as support. This zone is a key area for Fartcoin, and you've reclaimed it, and you're above the high volume node here on the perpetuals, and you're looking for, if you could get above, start closing candles above 1.07, you could really go on a move here for Fartcoin, and you are forming higher highs and higher lows. Everybody see that? Higher highs, higher lows. So what would I be looking at here for Fartcoin? Well, whenever you go on a range, you go from swing low to swing high. You're likely to catch that higher low. Where? At that golden pocket, 618786, golden pocket Fibonacci. Dipped right into the golden pocket. We went on a run. Let's do it again. Let's pull this Fibonacci up here. From the swing low of the range, which is likely your last golden pocket, right? The swing low of the range to the swing high, you're likely to come back to a fib. You didn't here. You came back to the 382. That's very, very, very bullish. All right, and now you can pull it up to here. You can pull it up to here from your swing low to your swing high, and you can see where a likely bounce point would be for Fartcoin. If you're looking at this from a leverage perspective, man, if you're looking at this from a leverage perspective, I can't advocate I can't be like, yes, go in on Fartcoin, baby. I can just tell you whether I own it. The narrative, it seems like people are getting behind it. Maybe it's something I don't understand. And there are going to be things that run that I'm not in, man. That is very, very true. But the next higher low, very likely to come in between this 82 and 90 cent region. If I was to dive into a leverage play, this is where I'd be looking for a move to the upside out of that next higher low in the sequence. Because until this low gets broken, market structure is sound. Market structure is sound. To 21 is curving up. Would not even be surprised, right? If you don't get that, if you do not get that 618786 retracement, you could start flagging out here, man. You could start flagging out, get that horizontal flag going on. 21 comes up in the price action with that lifer vision, right? Lifer vision, you come on and you travel around in here a little bit, and that 21 guides price to the upside. That looks very, very likely for Fartcoin. And with meme coins, I will say this, things are going to move. Things will move here in this market. However, nothing will move faster than the meme coins. Nothing. Diving on in here, let's take a quick peek here. You're going to see some of the biggest, what is this on the day? Oh yeah, on the day. You're going to see some of the biggest bubbles here, like outside of the top 100 to 200, buzz up 120%. How could this be possible? Well, the market caps are so small, right? And I don't know what buzz is, right? But like if meme coins, when is definitely a meme coin, pumped 75% today. Jelly meme coin, Myro meme coin, Broccoli meme coin, all these meme coins can get massive moves in the short term because they're all based on hype. Alpaca, right? Look at that logo, baby. Yeah, all these are meme coins, and or a lot of these are meme coins. Let me correction, as we'd say in the military. So yeah, as we used to say in the military, we're out, we're free, baby, we're free. But yeah, these meme coins can squeeze very violently to the upside after they've been beaten down so horribly from their highs. Fartcoin, from the highs, you got all the way down to what, man? You got low. You were trading at 274, came down to 20 cents. That's a 92% retrace, and now you're looking to recover. Can that happen? Absolutely for Fartcoin. And the meme coins, a new meme king could take control at any time. And that's why I'm so surprised about Dogecoin. Like that Dogecoin's maintained its valuation. It's pretty interesting. But yeah, Fartcoin can definitely move and consolidate here and move for a further leap to the upside. Do have a little bit of bearish divergence here on the daily, but I don't with meme coins, I've seen it all the time where bearish div will form and you'll still rip to the upside just because of hype and the pandemonium that goes into the markets. All right, diving on in. Thank you, Wanda. Thank you, BC, for diving on in. It was created by an AI. Interesting. Anonymous developer. I'll do a little dive into that, man. That's interesting. It is. An intriguing artificial intelligence AI experiment called Terminal of Truth. It emerged to create a token rooted in humor and the unique culture of the internet. Clearly that AI knows what it's doing, or knows what it was doing, because that was one of the best performers when it got released on Fartcoin. Whenever you're looking at whenever a coin first came out, you could look at it on Dex Screener. Let's see, Fartcoin on Solana on the daily. Let's dive on back here and see where this thing actually emerged from. So you had something that started trading at 2 cents. You 100x'd your money. If you got in at Fartcoin on October 20th of 2024, you 100x'd your money in 3 months. You will only get those gains, 100x'ing your money in 3 months, in the meme coin sector. That is true. All right, That's interesting, man. Hey, thanks for dropping that on my radar. That's very interesting. You know, I know, what was the other one? I think Goat. Goat was the first one made by AI. Greatest of all time. I think this was the first one. Maybe not. Maybe not. I'll do a little deep dive into that. That's cool. That's cool. I didn't, you know, that's wild what AI can create coins now. I know Ava AI is pretty cool on YouTube. It's like it's something that you can communicate with, and they've had live streams with her. It's an artificial intelligence. Very, very interesting stuff. All right, diving on in. Hey, that's interesting, PC. I appreciate you. Raud, what's going on, man? I haven't seen you in a minute. I appreciate you. We're going to work on down this list. MH wants to look at ICP. Wanda wants to look at Hbar. Brett. Yeah, we can look at Brett Raud. Absolutely. Thanks for being here, man. Hbar, the main investment, MH. That's interesting. We'll dive on into Hbar. Let's start on climbing down this list, baby. For MH, first one up on MHICP, Internet Computer Protocol. You know, one of the coins that had that massive run up, something happened. I don't know what happened with this thing, but something happened with the team or something, because this thing used to trade at several $100s up here on its release. I don't know what happened. But we're not going to dive on into that. I have no idea. That goes beyond my understanding of what this coin is and what it does. But, you know, from a charting perspective here, you did revisit, honestly, almost all-time lows right here. With that being said, the altcoins are looking to reverse. Look how beautiful this looks on the weekly. For those of you who are doubting if an altcoin season is here, ICP can moon, and it can move very, very quickly, violently, and eruptedly, if that's even a word. Why? Look at the RSI and the stochastics right here. You have the RSI sitting at under fair value. There's mark lines about to cross, or your signal lines about to cross your mark line, and your stochastics for the first time since early February are coming out of that oversold region on the weekly. You have giant gaps here in the VRVP for a squeeze to the upside. I see a reversal here for ICP coming and looming here, maybe even over the course of this upcoming week, as this one hasn't pumped as much, has it not? This one hasn't pumped as much as the rest of the market, up only about 13%. Yeah, that is very, very true. So a lot of coins are up double digits, baby. Double digits here on bubbles over the course of the week. Wow, look at that. That goes to show you this is a week. This is a 500, 600. This thing's 6x this week. Alpaca. Wild. All right. Going on, and you can see it right here, right? The 1-100, the average coin here is up only 16%. Whereas down here, you'll see these 27, 30. The average coin in here is up 27% on the 601. Look at these giant boobles, baby. Look at these giant boobles. A lot of these represent some of the meme coins. You know, Chill Guy even getting a 50% pump. That's kind of crazy to see. Look at that. That's wild. So, yeah. It looks like the meme coins are making a little bit of a turnaround here. I think it's going to be more of an impulse reaction, right? Because as people start rotating, selling, taking profits, I think that casino is about at the end of the line. So, yeah, this week has been absolutely monumental. Virtual is taking the leader of everything, 92%. And it wasn't just like that yesterday. You know, yesterday, Sui was the biggest one here. And Sui continues to go on a rampage. But, yeah, little off track. ICP, baby, ICP. So on the daily, looks really good with this giant gap in the VRVP, looking to gap up to this 630 region. I think that can happen very, very quickly. Even on the daily, you did create, you were making lower low, higher low, lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high, higher low. And this will be your first higher high, right, on the macro. You could see this as your first higher high, or you could take this as your first, without the higher low right there. You can pull a fib from either the swing low right here up to wherever you pump to once you break this right here, and you already have, right, into a good area for a leverage entry here on ICP, going by the Fibonacci's, right? Or you could get this shoulder, head, right, shoulder idea. For a lot of these coins that are, you know, sitting in limbo land down at the lows, it's a tough call. It's a tough call, right? Because to me, there's going to be winners and there's going to be losers of the cycle. And there's going to be coins that do not recover from this. And, this looks like a pretty good breakout. You have a couple of touch points down here, and you got a couple touch points here saying that you're likely to get a little bit of a squeeze here for ICP to the upside. And that coincides with the gaps in the VRVPs. Is ICP going to be a winner this cycle? It's not one that I hold in my portfolio. I hope the best for you. Anytime I see something like this, even if it was long ago, this represents unless they were bought out by somebody or something, this sketches me out, man. That sketches me out. So you gotta wonder what the true upside potential is for ICP. A lot of people think it's a really, really cool project. I'm not taking that away. A lot of people think this thing could do some absolute damage and potentially even revisit even a fraction of those highs would be monumental for ICP and all the ICP holders in the community. And I hope that happens for the best, for you guys. However, this isn't something that I hold in my portfolio. I will keep that on your radar. You are above the 4-hour 200 SMA. Look at this. We're likely to come to the 6, and you're struggling with the 6. So right now, in the near term, what I would look for is this asset here. Let's clean this up, make it look a little nicer. I would wait for this asset to consolidate underneath the 6-hour 200 SMA without losing the 4-hour. You start flagging out here, and that would look good for a gap up here for ICP to the upside, gapping through this healthy VRVP here on the daily up to at least about $6.19, but your next true high volume node sits up here at about $7. I think that reversal and move is very, very likely here for ICP into the coming weeks and days. All right, diving on in, baby, diving on in. Wanda wants to look at Hbar. Hbar, yeah, absolutely. Hbar, let's dive on into it. Hbar, one of the real world asset aggregators that was running with XRP. Where is it here? Is it on Binance? Is it not on Binance? That's interesting. Oh, it's on spot on Binance, but it's not on Tether. So we'll look at the MEXC chart here. All right. This was one of the hot plays that ran with XRP back in November of 2020. Why? Because the narrative was kind of the same. They kind of touched in the same areas. Hbar does have that tokenization of real world assets kind of vibe that goes along with it. It had a contract with some kind of gem company. Hbar tokenization. I forget where it was. It was overseas something. Yeah, World Geological Institute planned to tokenize $3 billion worth of diamonds, gemstones, and watches. That's very interesting on the Hbar network. That is Hbar, right? So that's really, really cool. It prevents fraud, lack of transparency. Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. When you're transacting anything of high value, like all those jewelries, gemstones, diamond watches, things of that nature, you want to do it in a safe way. And you want to stop scammers from wrecking you out of anything, right? You don't want everybody here's probably been scammed in one way, shape, or form, right? And and it's scary when you get scammed. It really is. So, woo, run out of water. But yeah, that it's scary when you get scammed. So this asset's based here in Texas, baby. Yeehaw, that's where I'm living in Texas. Based here in Texas, it's veteran owned. It seems like they have a good team and they know what they're doing. They're getting some high value contracts. And I know they're working with a bank in Australia now too. They're working with a bank in Australia, working with that real world or that global financial revolution that looks to be looming on the backs of XRP. So Hbar looks really, really good. I think this thing could do some massive numbers. What am I concerned with right here? The daily 200 SMA. Everybody knows how I feel about the daily 200 SMA. You get above it, you close above it, you close some candles above it. I'm bullish, baby. I will be macro mega bull. That's how I feel about every asset, right? And Hbar was looking so good until we fell beneath that daily 200 SMA. And this is why I say, right, that you could use the 200 MA as a safe bar. If you got out here, right, and you lost 200 MA at 18 cents and you get back in at 19.5 or 19.7, did you really take that much of a hit? Yeah, sure. You took a 10% hit on your Hbar. But you know what you don't do? You don't do this. You don't take a 55% in your overall position. You don't get wrecked like this, right? You don't get absolutely wrecked, 37%. So using that 200 MA, whether you're even in and out of assets, is often a smart idea in my opinion. So Hbar, right? Looking for that close up of the daily 200 SMA. Whenever you get a close up of the daily 200 SMA, that would look very, very good for Hbar. You have giant gaps in the VRVP here, and it wouldn't take much for Hbar to revisit the highs. Everybody saw how XRP ran. Hbar has shown that this has the ability to move. This thing went from the lows down here at about 4 cents all the way up to 40. That was a 10x in the span of 30 days. That's what all season will look like if Hbar cracks the highs. This thing could do some massive, massive damage, but it all starts here with getting above that daily 200 SMA, Wanda and MH. I think this project has a really good fundamentals. Let's see if the bulls can get us back above this 200 MA. That's what I'm looking at for Hbar, baby. For Hbar, Brett was a big boo-boo today, was it not? Oh my goodness. Yeah, you sort things by market cap. Bitcoin just screams, right? Brett, on the day, up 19%, up 87% on the week. This, I believe, is a meme coin, right? How do I know this is a meme coin? Well, you can take a look at the logo. Where was it? Where was it? You can take a look at this logo. If there's any serious business that uses this as their logo, they're probably not that serious. This is Brett, right? That's Brett, right? I want to go just based off of logos, right? But like all the meme coins, man, look at all the meme coins, man. I'm not hating on me. Look at this one, like Jelly, Myro. They all have the same kind of, they all have the same kind of art to them, I guess, right? And it makes them unique. With that being said, I respect Brett. BoyceCrypto, you said you don't respect meme coins. Brett has $675 million in market cap. You know who doesn't have $675 million? Me. I respect Brett from a market cap perspective. Being able to create a project that pushes up into the top 100s of the top 100 cryptos is respectable on any level, right? So Brett here, booming today, this week, up 40 spots on the crypto rankings, pumping from 3 cents all the way up to 7. That is wild. Let's pull on up Brett here on the perpetuals here on Binance. This is what I'm talking about, why it's dangerous to short assets after they've been getting absolutely annihilated to the downside. Because in a single 2-3 day time period, you can go on vacation or not look at the charts for a weekend, wake up and you're liquidated. That's not what we want to see here on this channel, right? So, Brett, you got a massive pump right now. You have to dive on in. You have nothing to work with, but you have this area right here that did serve as previous support. Yeah, support. So this is what I'd be looking at on the macro. You had support once, twice, 3 times. It is pivotal for Brett to get above this 7 cent and 0.3 of a cent. It is very, very pivotal that you break through this zone. You may consolidate a little bit. That is okay. But a break above and a retest, that would be what I'd be looking at for a leverage perspective, a retest of this key support resistance zone. What would I be looking for? I'd be looking for the reaction, the move like this. Now, I'd be using higher leverage when it comes to Brett. Why? Because it can move very, very quickly. Look at this move back here for Brett. Back here in November of 2024, 148% in just a few days, right? In 10 days. That is a monumental move for any asset. You are currently gapping up in the VRVP. Looks very, very nice, but I want to see this previous support resistance flip back into support. Flip back into support. It is very key that you don't reject from here and start creating a, and validate that support resistance flip, because ultimately it hasn't been validated yet. Now, if you did reject from here, what would I be looking for? That would be a very, very juicy cup and handle that I'd be looking for from the swing low to the high on Brett. This would look absolutely beautiful. Actually, even more picturesque than the rest of the coins that were kind of forming this cup and handle. That would look very, very beautiful. Textbook cup and handle looking to move to the upside. Out of that cup and handle, that would look like an immaculate move here, breaking that resistance line off the reaction at the 618-786 area for a monumental, monstrous move for Brett up here. That would be your 100% move that you'd be looking to take advantage of on a leverage play, baby. That's what I'm looking at here for Brett. I don't think these coins continue to absolutely rip. Again, I could be wrong. I could be completely wrong about the memes. It could be a meme cycle and everybody just funnels into memes into this casino and all these things reach their all-time high. This isn't financial advice. It's just how I view the charts and how I perceive these assets. And I appreciate you dropping Brett on our radar, baby. This is gapping up in the VRVP. The daily 200 SMA looks to be tested, at least tested. That would coincide with the support. No, it wouldn't. It's just that 200 SMA is just above that support resistance area. So you're coming up into not only the 200 SMA, that high volume node, and that previous support resistance flip. A caution area for Brett right now. With that being said, these meme coins have been known to move, and you can get that gigantic squeeze to the upside you're looking for. Just not something where I see a high probability setup right now, my friend. But there is opportunity here in this market. The 2 trading scenarios I see for Brett would be a break above this support resistance flip idea. This support resistance flip, reclaim that as support, potentially get rejected at the 200 MA there, reclaim that as support, and then longing from here, or you get rejected here at this support resistance flip zone, and you come down and you create that beautiful cup and handle that we were talking about just a few minutes ago. That would be the long area that I'd be looking for. Either way, I'd be looking for longs here on Brett. I wouldn't be looking to short this asset, not with this kind of momentum. The 21 curving up, stochastics pinned to the upside, or not quite pinned, but almost pinned to the upside. Even on the weekly, look at the weekly curving up very, very violently here for Brett, a relatively new project. This thing can scream. You've never not been oversold on Brett based off of this chart. So coming up into this value, can you get pinned and overbought and just have a massive rally? The possibility is there. It is there for Brett. All right, diving on in. Long C, what's going on, brother? It's been a minute since I talked to you, man. Don't be a stranger. Reach on out. Hey, thank you for dropping on in the chat, brother. I appreciate you. We'll take a look at Turbo, one of the hottest memes of the, honestly, back in November, Turbo was absolutely ripping. We'll dive on into Turbo, man. Yeah, absolutely. Like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for dropping that on everybody's attention, Wanda. I appreciate that. We looked at Brett. We looked at Hbar. We got Wormhole next on the list, and then we'll hop on into Turbo for Long C. I appreciate you, brother. Wormhole, diving on it. Wormhole. Is it even on? Wormhole token on Tether on OKX. All right, diving on in on the weekly. I'll say this just by looking at the chart, not even doing ATA on the smaller time frames. This does not look as strong as the rest of the coins here in the market. A lot of coins on double-digit gainers here, and you're up 27%, but that's over the course of the week. A lot of these things on bubbles here over the course of the week. Look at these. You're tickling with a coin that just hasn't responded as strongly as some of the hotter narratives in the game right now. So that's what I'm looking at just right off the bat for Wormhole. With that being said, you do have a very, very nice daily bullish divergence that is formed here on the charts on the RSI. As you have this swing up, you're making higher lows here on the RSI while you're making lower lows on price action. And this, you did get the reaction here, but this RSI bullish divergence will not be played out. And above the high volume node, I like that. This bullish divergence here on the RSI will not play out until you crack this wick right up here. So I do see a potential squeeze here for Wormhole to the upside. Why? You're above the high volume node. You have daily bullish divergence to support your stochastic. RSI are pinned here at the 100 level, signaling that momentum is definitely in the bull's control. No questions asked. And if you did get a little bit of a reversal here, if you did get a little bit of a pullback / sideways consolidation, I think that 84.90 level looks very, very good for a potential bounce zone, right? At least up to confirm this daily bullish divergence. Anytime you see daily bullish divergence, it is nothing. It is nothing to, you didn't have daily bullish divergence the entire time. You didn't make a higher low on price action once. The minute that you did, you started creating higher lows here on the RSI. And you had it here. It fell to the downside. You did have a little bit of bearishness there, but ultimately you formed a elongated bullish divergence that looks to squeeze you to the upside here in the near term. And that for Wormhole would be nothing but impressive. Another 50% move looks like it's likely to come here for Wormhole. And have you guys ever heard me talking about moves like this on the smaller time frames, right? Even on the daily. Not really for the altcoins. We've just been getting battered down since around November, baby. Since around November. So I think these altcoins, specifically the meme coins, have the potential to get a massive squeeze here. That's what I've got. Looking at Turbo, RSI looks very, very good here on the daily, pinned at 100. The RSI, the normal RSI, still has room to go into that overbought territory. You're sitting above the high volume node and daily bullish divergence. Looks good to me, brother. Looks good to me for a continued move to the upside. You may get a little bit of sideways consolidation above this high volume node, but I'd look for this high volume node right here to hold, as this daily candle is likely to close in the next 44 minutes, will close in the next 44 minutes, and that will establish that the bulls have reclaimed the point of control here on the VRVP. That looks strong, brother. Wormhole looking for a squeeze to the upside, and when I say this bullish divergence, this candle right here was once a very solid green candle, and you got rejected at this point. The bullish divergence would play out even if you had a massive wick and it came back down. That bullish divergence would play out. Just something you want to keep in mind. Why do I keep that on your radar? Is if you're in a leverage position on this thing, make sure to have a take profit set, right? You don't want to sleep through a move like this and get absolutely devastated in the morning when you wake up. Oh, I missed the take profit. Have your take profit set in the charts, baby. All right, diving on in. Long C, I appreciate you diving on in, brother. Thanks for being here. Much love. Miss you over in Japan, brother. I hope you're doing good. I hope you're holding strong. I hope you're out there sailing, sailing with all the sailors, baby. Yeah, I appreciate you, brother. Thank you for your service. All right, Turbo, man. Here we go on the perpetuals. Wow, what a rocket shot. Hey, listen. These are the moves that you can expect to see out of meme coins once they get out of their rut. Turbo up 146%. Long C, I will tell you this. Whenever you see movement like this on the chart, there is often, look back here, right? Whenever you see, I'll point to here, right? Rejection, and you did get that massive squeeze here. The potential is very, very high for Turbo. And, you know, it's that little snail thing, isn't it? I had to crack a monster. I had no other liquid. I promise I wasn't going to do that. But I'm doing it now. It's a little turtle. It's a little turtle, right? All right, so Turbo sitting at rank 146, up 107 rankings today. Not surprising, given that the move on the daily, on the weekly, this weekly candle is absolutely massive for Turbo. A very, very similar situation to Wormhole, where you've been oversold since the beginning, the end of January. That's 3 months of oversoldness. How much longer can you be oversold? And the momentum is shifting to the upside. Very, very, very clear here to me. Let's see what this kind of move was here on the weekly. 150%, that's massive, man. All right, so here's, and I don't know how often you tune into the channel, brother. I appreciate you diving on in the chat. This red line here represents the 200 daily moving average. To me, it is the simplest way to tell whether a project will continue to the upside or to the downside. Crossing this line is imperative. Why is this line not extended? Because Turbo isn't this old. This 200 moving average just formed. Turbo turned 200 days old on December 15th. So now given that this has formed, you can use it as a very, very clear indicator of whether you're bullish or bearish. You can notice when you lost this daily 200 SMA, if you would have got out right here, it would have saved you a world of pain. It would have saved you an additional 70% to the downside here for Turbo. That's not what you want to see when it comes to your money, man. So we're coming to it again. We're coming to that daily 200 SMA. This 200 SMA will serve as resistance, right? A zone that will be very, very difficult for Turbo to overcome. With that being said, if you overcome this zone, you start closing candles above the daily 200 SMA, I will say this, and I will put this on everyone's radar. I'll put this on everybody's radar. You break above this daily 200 SMA, and I think there's a likely attempt at least a test. This giant gap here in the VRVP. Let's get the entire range here. I know it's small, but I have to bring it out. The VRVP here. This point of control represents the area where the most amount of Turbo exchanged hands. This is saying that the buyers won out here at about that 42,105 level, right? And I'm not going to speak in decimal places, so at 42, right? At 42, Turbo got that move to the upside. You push past that point of control where sellers were likely to step in and they couldn't push the price down. So the bulls right now, from a point of control standpoint, are in control. Where are you likely to come? Up to that next high volume node. We talk about this on the channel. This is the ball rolling down the hill scenario. You get in here and we'll keep this VRVP up. I know it's small. I hope you can see this. Can you guys see this? You guys can see this. Cool. So you have this ball rolling down the hill scenario. You get a ball and you roll it down this hill. Where is it likely to stop? At the next trough, right? Look where we started getting resistance here on this candle right here. And you came up to that next trough pretty perfectly. So now you're likely to bounce around in this zone. As long as you maintain above this high volume node, a test at least of the daily 200 SMA is on the table. You break that daily 200 SMA, which is where that high volume node sits right here at about 61515, baby. You get above there, that ball rolling down the hill scenario, woo, will get you that monumental move that you're looking for at least up until this 88 cent level, or that 0.0088 level here for Turbo. And you know, that would be an area that I'd be really, really interested in at least taking some profits off the table. Why? Because just off of an eye glance, I can see from this Fibonacci retracement, you're likely to come up to what? Yeah, that 618786 Golden Pocky Fibonacci retracement here if Turbo is going to put in a lower high, this is where it's likely to come in at this 618, 786 bearish Fibonacci retracement before going to seek lower prices. That's how these markets work, brother. It's very, very interesting to see Turbo rocketing like this, and I think there's more room for the upside as you gap through the VRVP. This is a massive gap in the VRVP, and it's likely to get closed just as quickly to the downside as it will to the upside. Very, very likely. I know it's a little messy on the chart. I like what I'm seeing here for Turbo. The first confirmation that I would see of continuation to the upside is breaking above this red line, which sits at about 0.0062, brother. That's what I'd be looking at for continuation for Turbo. I want to see a close above that daily 200 SMA and get that move to the upside to continue this gap up in the VRVP up to about that 88 cent level. I don't know what kind of trader you are, man, if you just hold it on spot or whatever, but this is something that can move, and it can move very, very quickly. But keep in mind, right, risk management is something that we preach here over and over again on the channel. We don't chase green candles. You have to, if you chase right here, you could win. You could win, and it could rocket to the upside, and you can make a metric butt ton of money, right? However, the more green candles you have in a row, the greater likelihood that you have, the more extended you get away from this 21 moving average, the greater likelihood that you have of a pullback. We're pretty far from the 21 right now. All we need for the 21, right, to come up in the price action is a little bit of sideways movement before the next leg up. That's what I'd be looking at for Turbo from a leverage perspective. If you're looking at getting in on spot, I would still wait for the same thing. I wouldn't chase right here, brother, because the potential of a pullback is looming, right? If we open up this week with some kind of bad news and the meme coins take a hit, or some other sector starts firing off besides the memes, Turbo can definitely take a hit. So, I can't give you a good call right here. I can't give you a good, for certain, right? Nothing's certain in trading. But this isn't an asset that I'm touching with my funds personally, right? I will tell you that. Now, as I look at it on the 1 hour, I am seeing something very, very interesting. I do see this flag right here. And this kind of changes my bias a little bit. I think a move likely is coming to the upside for Turbo. Why? Because we're breaking out of this flag. The stochastics are resetting, pointing to the upside. Yeah, man, I'll lean bullish on this. But you got to acknowledge that you're coming up to that resistance at that daily 200 SMA sitting here at about 62. That still represents a pretty monumental move, man, from where you're sitting right now. Even if you're a leverage trader, you can take advantage of a 10% gain. You're on 10x leverage, you double your money, man. That's a monumental move to the upside, looking likely for Turbo. I appreciate you jumping on in the chat, man. Any other coins you want, just drop them on in the chat. I appreciate you guys diving on in. Yeah, long C, that's my analysis on Turbo, brother. That's my analysis on Turbo. And I don't give financial advice, right? This is all for entertainment purposes only. You guys see my wins. You guys see my losses here on this channel. The environment is definitely turning around here from a leverage perspective. I'm beginning to build a swing long position on Ondo. We'll do a portfolio overview one day here later on in the alt season so that you guys can see the kind of gains that are really, really possible when it comes to just a season. It's going to be immaculate. It's going to be absolutely immaculate. Leverage positions, you guys have been here with me from day one. You guys can see it over on X. Right, haven't been leverage trading a lot, but leverage positions are all posted on X for free at BoyceCrypto102. All my plays, investments, strategy, money made, money lost, right? That's all there on X for you guys to see. So that's really interesting. I appreciate each and every one of you giving me a follow over there. I appreciate each and every single one of you guys diving on into the chat. Long C, Jupiter or Phantom? Yeah, brother. Yeah, absolutely. Let's dive on into Jupiter. Let me talk to you about Jupiter. Jupiter, one of my favorite projects. I think Jupiter, look, my faith in Solana has withered. It is withered. Why? Because I think this chain has lost a lot of trust. Not this chain, not Jupiter. But Jupiter is the #1 decentralized exchange on Solana. I think Jupiter, I love what they do. The team is incredibly smart. The team's incredibly smart. They have active staking, right? I do actively stake in the Jupiter platform. I do vote on the DAO proposals, which gives you Jupiter year over year. It used to be a 100% APY year over year, which is super awesome and kind of paid for this downside capitulation, because a lot of the Jupiter that I accumulated was up in around 60, 70 cents. So now trading at 50 cents is like, but I've gotten a lot of Jupiter. I've over doubled my my Jupiter holdings without adding any actual money to it, just because of voting in the DAO. It's been super awesome. Also got airdropped a ton of tokens. Got dropped, what was it? We got dropped, what's that? A Pangu. We got dropped Weak token, Lightning, something like that. Yeah, a lot of different meme coins. And honestly, when I got them, I just sold them immediately. Like I just, because I don't dabble with the memes, but they give you memes. Any kind of meme that's promoted on the through Jupiter, launched through Jupiter, the stakers, the active stakers, which you have to do, you do have to lock up your Jupiter for 30 days in order to do it. But I think it's really good. All right, Jupiter. Coming up to a very, very key area. Jupiter is relatively new, you know. I mean, they announced their active staking back here in March of 2024. You did get that drop off, and now you're testing that key area. This is on the weekly. This is on the weekly as well. This area did serve as support, and now it is serving as resistance. I will say this, it is imperative that Jupiter starts closing candles above this white line, and that's just at 49 cents, just a singular penny above where we're at right now, but it's pivotal that Jupiter does reclaim this and flip this node into support here at about 49 to 50 cents. Very, very, very important. Stochastics are pinned, which is looking very good from the stochastic RSI point of view. RSI does have more room to run to the upside. I'm telling you guys, altcoins, altcoins are turning around here. Altcoins are making a monumental turnaround, and I think alt season's looming. I think alt season is here, and it's going to catch everybody with their pants down. It really will. You guys that have been here with me have been investing in the altcoins, right? I'll go right back to Jupiter. But you guys have been investing in altcoins in this box, baby. This is our box of remembrance. Why do we call that the box of remembrance? Because we're going to remember our box of remembrance. We're going to remember our box of remembrance when we're sitting up here at a $3 trillion market cap. And that white box is going to be insanely small. We're going to be up here, and this white box down here, we're going to be like, wow, BoyceCrypto and the community got in at this white box. This white box hasn't moved, and it will not move. Even if we capitulate down, it's going to be like, wow, BoyceCrypto absolutely wrecked us right here. What in the world? That's when he was averaging in. He must have gotten smoked. Yeah, that could happen. That's true. This market turns down. We break the weekly 200. It could be a disaster. But this is where I have been investing and heavily loading up on the altcoins that I think are going to do massive numbers this cycle. And we are out of that box of remembrance. We were in it, and we were out of it, baby. I started investing on this candle right here, all throughout this candle, and we did go at a little lower. But that's where fear, you don't want to let fear step in. This was a 618-786 golden pocket Fibonacci retrace, so we could have bounced anywhere in here, and we are getting that reaction and gapping up, looking to close above the daily 200 SMA for the first time in what feels like a long time, since 2 months ago. So it's going to be a really, really hot time for the altcoins. I'm telling you guys. Back to Jupiter. Jupiter, I think, can be a winner. If Solana does reclaim its footing, why am I a little sus on Solana? Because they launched Trump Coin, which was a rug pull. They launched Melania Coin, which was a bigger rug pull. The same creator of Melania Coin created Libra Coin, had the president of Argentina promote it on his X. He deletes the tweet and crashes it. He sold his share, baby, and hundreds of millions of dollars just stolen from the public. There's very little regulation when it comes to coins that are launched on the Solana platform. You could buy Solana, create your own coin, and then launch it over there on Dex Screener. Nothing stopping you based off of absolutely nothing. And you could rug pull people like people do it all the time on YouTube for fun. That's not something I really get behind. And I think the public has lost a lot of trust in Solana, and with that, Jupiter has suffered. Why? Because Jupiter is directly tied to Solana. It's the #1 decentralized exchange on Solana. That's what it is. What are these big candles right here? I don't even have to tell you. When did Trump Coin come out? I think it was back here. Yeah, this was it. Trump Coin came out and Jupiter mooned like crazy up to $1.44. You had that massive capitulation. Then what happened? Melania coin came out. Oh my gosh, Melania coin, the next big coin. And then the Yeezy kind of rumors and things like that. So it responded to the meme news. Why? Because you couldn't buy those meme coins with cash, man. You needed Jupiter, you needed Solana, you needed Radium, you needed a token to exchange it for those coins. You couldn't go on Coinbase and use US dollars to purchase any of those coins. You could not do it, you know, based off when it first came out, right? And then Coinbase released it, and then that marked the top when everybody who doesn't really know a lot about crypto was able to get into the coin, and then they got absolutely annihilated. And that sucks, right? But I think Jupiter and Solana network has suffered for that, right? And they got a lot of ground to cover. That being said, if you can reclaim this area of support, resistance, flip, support, and now resistance, you can reclaim this, get above this high volume node. I'll turn into a bull for Jupiter. Why? Because this gap up in the VRVP would be monumentally massive. That would be a very, very juicy trade scenario here for me based off of a long. You get above here, you can put your stop beneath this high volume node cluster that is likely to support you, and you could take this, baby. You could take this all the way up to the next high volume node, ball rolling down the hill scenario for a juicy 10-to-1 risk reward trade. That looks very, very good if you could catch it on the right zone off of that reaction. So that's what I'd be looking at. Also, would be a very, very interesting shoulder, head, right shoulder if the market does give that to us. You'd have that shoulder, head, and then potentially that right shoulder that gets you out of here to the upside. The measured move of that, oh my gosh, looking a little sloppy. Let's get this out of here. Little sloppy there, little sloppy. Yeah, that shoulder, head, right shoulder. How do shoulder, head, right shoulders break out? They break out the length of the neck, the length from the base to the neckline. And when they're slanted, it's real juicy because you get that little extra pump off of that downward slope right here. If this was just sloped across, this would be a little steeper, but you often don't get that massive droop in price action whenever you're looking at shoulder, head, right shoulders from a traditional standpoint. But slanted, shoulder, head, right shoulder potentially here for Jupiter to the upside, gapping through this VRVP. That would look very nice. Taking Jupiter back up to about 70 cents. Looks very good to me, man. I would still wait. If it were me and my money, and I'm not telling you what to do with your money, I'll never do that, right? But if it were me, I'd wait for a little bit of consolidation underneath this level and at least hold this 4-hour 200 SMA. And I know I'm kind of bullish, bearish on this thing. And a lot of the coins we like out today, like the things that I'm not bullish, bearish on, I'm bullish on the altcoins. I'll put that out there. I'm bullish on the altcoins. However, for the next 2 to 3 days, the potential of a pullback is relatively high. That's why I'm giving a lot of if this, then that scenarios, because that's how I trade. I'm on a leverage perspective. Spot, I'm just holding right now. I'm accumulating as much spot as possible because I believe these are great prices for all the altcoins. If you don't care about all this choppy mess, I think Jupiter is going to do well over the long term. If Solana does get added to the strategic reserve for crypto, that would be a massive leg up for Solana, and Jupiter would fly with it. And Jupiter, I think, would arguably rally a lot harder based off of his limited supply and the buybacks that were just announced this prior year. So that's what I'm looking at. Long C, I appreciate you diving on in, man, and asking about your coins. We went over Turbo. We went over Wormhole. We went over Jupiter. We went over Brett, Hbar, ICP. We went over Fartcoin. Just making sure I didn't miss any. We went over SEI. We went over those technical difficulty issues that we did have earlier in the... Woo! We went over that technical, that area earlier in the technical difficulties we had earlier in the stream. Much appreciated, everybody. Much appreciated. Back to Bitcoin. I just want to take a little glimpse at how the king of assets, again, all these altcoins for me, I use these altcoins as a tool, baby. I use these altcoins as a tool. My end goal here for my investing strategy is to accumulate as much of Bitcoin as possible. To me, this is a multi-million-dollar asset in the making. I think long-term, you're going to see a $10 million Bitcoin, and I think it's going to happen sooner than a lot of people think. I think that can happen by 2040, 2045. That would put me at, about 40 years old, and I would never have to work again. I'd never have to do anything again. Listen to anybody. I'd never have to do anything the rest of my life, right? And that's besides what I got in my retirement account, which I don't even think I'll never need to touch if Bitcoin does get there, right? If Bitcoin even gets to a fraction of that, right? And like, again, started accumulating Bitcoin down at about the $8,000 level when I, got in the Navy. And man, it's been the best returning investment over the course of my life. And it just represents something that I really truly believe in. Every day you hold US dollars, more is printed every single day. This is truly the only scarce asset that I believe that is in the world. And I think the governments, they can't stop printing money, baby. They never will. They never can. Everybody waiting for interest rate cuts. Everybody foaming at the mouth for Jerome Powell. Interest rate cut. That's money printing. That's money printing that will be injected into the system. Where's it going to go? It's going to go into housing. It's going to go into the stock market, which is why the stock market's at an all-time high. The stock market is 3 times bigger than it was 5 years ago. 3 times. 4 times bigger, right? We're sitting at what? 8,000 for the NQ at the COVID crash, right? Giant COVID crash, the devastation. People are like, oh, this is the bear market. This is it. We have been in a bull market ever since 2008. We've been in a bull market. Why? Because since 2008, we've been printing insane amounts of money. And Long C, I know the same Long C I'm thinking of, man. I don't know what you did with your stimulus check, brother, when we were in the Navy. I took it and I put it in the market. And so did everybody else that I know, man. Everybody else did. I didn't need those checks. I was getting a paycheck. So was everybody else. There were so many people. That's why I like Doge, man. That's why I like Doge. The amount of government waste is insane. I see this $5,000 for new moms having kids now. That's being proposed. And that was proposed by Trump, supposedly. I'll do a little more diving on into that. And regardless of how you feel, yeah, moms do deserve, right, that $5,000 cushion. Where is it coming from? It's got to come from somewhere, and it comes from the printing press. You know, and in order to solve problems, in order to fund government projects, you got to print money because it doesn't come from taxpayer dollars. You know, your taxes do not pay for this. This is why Trump's trying to turn around the tariffs and everything because as Warren Buffett said, the greatest renowned investor of our time, arguably, he said the U.S. can't keep traveling on he said it's the first U.S. president that has cared about the United States economy and has stepped up and has done what is needed to be done for over a decade, right? Ever since he's been he said it was like 20, 30 years since he's seen this kind of dominance from a U.S. president. Regardless of how we feel about policies, right? We cannot keep printing money. We cannot do that. If we keep printing money, you'll see $100,000. Screw it. We'll see $100,000 NASDAQ. We'll see this. Would this look normal for people? Oh yeah, just put money in the market. It'll just keep going up, right? Is that going to look like the NASDAQ? Are we just going to is that what we're going to do? Just keep going to the moon? Because that's what happens in hyperinflationary environments, right? Where milk, you see prices in the grocery store going up right now. One of the best performing assets. No one would know. Not no one would know. Anybody ever look at orange juice? It's interesting. Orange juice. Oh, I couldn't spell it. That's why. Orange juice futures, baby. You guys ever see something like this? This is crazy. This is absolutely crazy. Orange juice futures on the 3-month. This has been wild. This is what money printing did, and just in the past few months with the tariffs, this is why everything's coming. We're making a lot more money now for the United States. Prices starting to come down, right? Prices are going to get passed on to different kind of areas, but we're getting orange juice from different places now. We're getting more orange juice here from the United States. We don't have to ship it. We don't have to do anything like that. But before that, we were just massively printing money. So yeah, naturally the prices of everything kept going up and up and up and up and up and up. And orange juice futures screaming to the upside. That's crazy. And it does it with everything. It did it with eggs. Look at eggs. You can chart pretty much anything here. Grade A eggs here on the monthly. Look at this for eggs. And we drew this circle weeks ago, right? Eggs coming up to, $7 to $10, right? Look at this chart. It's starting to curve like the stock market. That's the result of endless money printing. Just something to keep on your radar. Stochastics reset on the 3-month. The RSI looking to push in the overbought area. The charts are screaming eggs are going higher. Eggs go higher. Bread goes higher. Bread goes higher. Meat goes higher. Meat goes higher. Everything goes higher. Canned goods go higher. Transportation costs go up. right now gas is coming down, so which is really, really nice, right? We made some oil deals. Gas is coming down. Oil's starting to struggle. I did see oil was falling, was it not? Crude oil futures. Yeah, oil was falling. This was just the other week. Yeah, starting to crumble right here, which is why you're seeing some better gas prices around. And we did have it in this flag, or not even this flag, this descending triangle looking to break to the downside. And you just got the retest to that bottom trend line right here. Looking to dump further here, you could get a massive steal on crude oil going down to $22 a barrel potentially. Could that happen? Absolutely. And these are some other commodities that you're looking at, but these are the things that you look at like from a world economic perspective, like, and everything it gets tied into. Even the cryptocurrency market, right, gets shaken by the moves of the traditional market. So stuff that you definitely want to keep on your radar whenever you're making those macro big investing decisions. I know that's a lot, and you don't need to be looking at the price of orange juice or crude oil or anything like that. You don't need to be looking at those things, but it's stuff that I find very interesting. I'll be in these charts all the time, man. It's just what I love. All right, it's what I love and how I make my money, baby, how I make my living. So yeah, that's what I'm looking at right now. Yeah, for crude oil and everything. Hey, the chat's kind of dried up, everybody. I appreciate each and every single one of you guys diving on in with me and running on into the market with me. Again, just real quick recap here, going over this. We have massive news drivers of the market coming on in this week of April 28th. Nothing on Monday, and usually when there's nothing on Monday, you guys know how that is. Nothing on Monday, they're just gonna absolutely wham us on Tuesday. We got everything. We have everything from retail sales, consumer confidence, job openings. All of those will move the market likely when Tuesday. I'm not even gonna say likely. Tuesday, the market will have a giant green/red dildo candle at 10 a.m. At 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, it will happen. Why? Because consumer confidence and job openings, some of the most sensitive things that move markets, right? If that wasn't enough. Next day, we got personal income. A look at the consumer and how consumers are handling these tariffs to higher prices / lower prices in some areas. We got pending home sales. Are people selling their home? There's a lot. GDP, right? Are the tariffs making the United States as much money as Donald Trump is claiming? Thursday, like we have every week, the initial jobless claims coming on in. Auto sales, that's not going to do too much auto sales, but initial jobless claims, 8:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's going to move futures, and that's going to move the pre-market going in on Thursday. And this will move all these things that I'm saying will move the market, will move the crypto market as well. And then the biggie on Friday, non-farm payroll, unemployment rate, and hourly wages all coming in at the same time, 8:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. This will be the biggest mover. Why? Because even after a week of turmoil on a low liquidity Friday, we're getting some big, major economic news. This is arguably the non-farm payroll is going to be a massive economic driver. So this week, expect volatility, expect big swings to the upside and to the downside, because ultimately we do not know how this data is going to come in, and it's all based off of how it compares to this median forecast right here that is prompted by the economic forum. So it's going to be an interesting week, to say the least, that's for sure. Hey, thank you everybody for diving on in with me today. We got a mixed day in the market. Take a breath from the market. Likely this puppy doesn't move too much the rest of the day here. Or the rest of the weekend. We got the CME gap chilling right where we are for Bitcoin, where we closed on Friday at 8 p.m. And right now, I think it's a good time to rest your eyes, get a break from the chart, because come Tuesday, that will be a monumental start to a week that is going to be incredibly busy, and I'm going to be bringing it to you here live every single night next week, baby. We're going to be diving on in and finding the hottest moves. The altcoin bull market may be beginning, but it's going to depend on the broader macroeconomic environment. And honestly, if we could get these news events coming in, even at least like where they expect, that would be very, very bullish for crypto and the markets abroad. We need the NQ and the S&P to recover here, and risk on assets will be back on. Let's see how gold's doing real quick before we head out. Gold, a measure of the uncertainty in the market. pulling back from its all-time high at about $3,500. For those of you who don't own any gold, man, this has been something that's been a monumental monstrosity ripper ever since Donald Trump did get in office. We started with those tariffs and everything, and uncertainty has gone through the roof. Gold on a 46% move since Donald Trump's inauguration. And, you know, or not even this is inauguration. Where was that inauguration? On the 24th? Yeah, not that much. Yeah, about a 30% move for gold. And gold is the biggest asset we got here in the world, in the broader markets. It sits at like a $22 trillion market cap right now, bigger than anything. It's like 10 times bigger than Amazon. So gold is a monster, and it's been on a monster move. And, you know, on the daily, we are getting a little bit of a pullback here. This represents this does show that a little bit of risk-off assets coming back into risk-on assets as people flee gold and they jump on into a more risk-friendly environment that we've been seeing throughout the week. That represents these few red candles. So let's see if gold can hold up here. Gold goes on a tear, likely stocks, cryptos, and things fall to the downside. So that is very, very true. The 21 coming up. Let's see if we can break through here and get at least a little bit of a pullback for gold so we get a relief in the broader economic market and the cryptocurrency markets. That's what I'm looking at. Everybody enjoy your night. Enjoy your Saturday night. Thank you for kicking in, hanging out here with BoyceCrypto on the channel. I will see you guys tomorrow. Much love. Until then, BoyceCrypto is out, baby. We are out. Much love, everybody. Enjoy your Saturday night. Thank you for being here.